Ms. Würzberger, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning to everyone in attendance. Good morning, Charm TV. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will now begin. Please take this opportunity to turn off or mute all electronic devices as the board is now in session. First case, Sacre Sucra LLC, Sacre Sucra 933 to 35 Fell Street, Class B, beer, wine, and liquor license application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis Article 12-903, little c, 2, little I, requiring $500,000 in capital investment in restaurant fixtures and facilities, 51% of food sales, and seating capacity for a minimum of 75 people, but not more than 150 individuals. Please come forward.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. For the record, Melvin J. Kaninsky, 320 North Charles Street for the applicants.
Yeah, let me begin. There was a protest filed with respect to this application for this new Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, filed under the provisions of the Alcoholic Article, Section 1508, requiring more than 50% of those who are eligible to protest it, and by the board's calculation, they did not meet that threshold. So that particular protest will not succeed. So we'll go forward on the merits of the application, and I'll hear from you, Mr. Kudensky, and then those who have other positions on this, we can hear from them.
All right, for the record, you would want to swear in all the witnesses at one time. Not that they're all going to testify, but
Yeah, anybody who is here to speak on this matter, please come forward and be sworn.
Both sides?
Yes. Might as well do it all at one time.
And you just spoke, can I get your name and spell it, please?
Mark Berman, M-A-R-K-B-E-R-M-A-N.
All right, so the reporter is going to swear you in, and when we get to you, you'll need to come forward to this microphone, tell us your name, spell it for the reporter if it's not Smith or Brown or something like that, and then we can proceed, okay?
Can everybody raise your right hands? Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you. You all can be seated. Mr. Kudensky, let's proceed.
just by a little way of background, this particular address has had, for the microphone, otherwise your director will be down here. This particular address had a liquor license there since after Prohibition. For years, it was known as a Dead End Saloon, operated by Barbara Grella. She went to North Carolina. And then after that, we created a new Class B license about 4 or 5 years ago. And the last occupant there that had it was Lucky Buns, Fells Point LLC. They had a license that expired in 2022. Their license had the use of first floor as a restaurant, basement as storage, second floor is kitchen, third floor is office space and storage, which is exactly what we're applying for here. I'd like to give this as an exhibit, if I can. Thank you. Oops, I'm sorry. Oh,
I'm sorry. They put these things right in front of us so we can't see you.
Just
Okay.
as an indication of what was there up to the.
Okay, so this will be received for historical purposes, I understand.
And before I put in the other evidence, I'd like to indicate that the property itself is Zone C1, which is a commercial property. It's commercial in that whole area. We just submit copies of the zoning from the zoning city view.
Okay, so this is a bakery, right?
Bakery restaurant.
And it's been there how long?
Right now, 4 months. They were on Fleet in Washington prior to that for about 4 years, which is about 3 blocks away. And they bought the building, the applicants bought the building. They put a bakery in there, no bar, no televisions, and strictly as a restaurant. And they were applying for the license that was there prior, no changes, nothing on the second floor. At this time, I'd submit, I don't know whether it's part of the copy of the menu. Someone here for council?
Yeah, we've just been handed those documents. They'll be received, documents from you and also from the opposition, okay?
This is copy of the menu.
I think we have it here, Mr. Kudensky.
Which one you have? Okay.
Yeah, we've got copies.
Next, I have a copy of the appraisal done by Mr.
Mr. Kudensky, can you speak into the microphone? Folks in the back can't hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I told you I'd get clip-on mics, because they won't go for it. Jonathan Melnick, who's the accepted appraiser, went ahead and appraised the building. He did the prior appraisal for Lucky Buns, and he went back and did appraisal here. I'll submit that appraisal. And one I think is in your packet is the prior appraisal. So this is the most recent appraisal.
This is commercial C1.
Yes.
Okay. Be received.
In addition there too, there was a seating chart, but I think this is a more accurate seating chart. It's there as it exists now, and seating is between 108 and 138, all on the first floor.
Thank you.
And then, next I would submit a packet of pictures that were taken a few days ago to accurately depict the interior and what it looks like with people being on the premises.
Thank you. This will be received. When were these taken?
About 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And next, we'd have a packet of petitions that were secured by the petitioner. Would indicate there are 246 names on the petitions. I think what is noteworthy, and I'll put on each one, is that in the area, since they're on Fell Street's a small street, 98 people from Fell Street, 40 from Gulf Street, 23 from Alisana or Elysiana, I don't know how people say it these days, and Thames Street 7, which is a very commercial area. Attached to that is the, also some pictures. I only have one of these. I'll get council one.
It will be received. So do we have evidence of the amount of the investment?
I just gave you Mr. Melnick's appraisal,
Yeah, and what is the amount?
$2,100,000.
Okay.
Ask one of the applicants to step forward. Okay. State your name and address for the record.
Dane Thibodeau, that's DaneThibodeaux.
And you're one of the applicants and one of the owners, is that correct?
Correct.
Who's the other owner with you?
Manuel Sanchez.
Manuel is sitting there. You want to stand up, Manuel, so they can get a look at you? So he's the other one.
Good
So
morning, gentlemen.
Between the two of
Thank
you, you operate this establishment, is that correct?
Correct.
You had another establishment on Washington and Fleet Street,
Correct.
and how long were you there?
We were there for 5.5 years.
and then you left there and you bought this building, is that correct?
Correct.
And you've been open there how long now?
Since the middle of January.
Okay. And the pictures that we submitted, they accurately depict what the place looks like?
Correct.
And how many employees do you have?
12?
And then how many are front of the house and how many are back of the house? Front of the house means people out in front, back means kitchen people, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There's 4 kitchen people, and the rest are the front of the house.
Okay, and you have no TVs,
No TVs,
and no bar,
no bar.
all right? And along with that, right now, your hours are what for now?
Mondays and Tuesdays, we're open 7 to 1. Wednesday through Saturday, 9 to 6 p.m., and Sundays, 9 to 5 p.m.
All right, and along with that, you've had requests by some of your customers to add beer, wine, and liquor, is that correct?
Correct.
And what was the sum and substance of the conversation?
That it would be nice to have one of the desserts with a cocktail or a glass of wine or a beer, because a lot of our desserts could be paired with different beverages.
And then along with that, great bulk of your people are from the neighborhood,
Correct,
and they walk in, is that correct?
correct,
And along with that, you're going to make sure that your servers who serve alcohol are going to be alcohol certified, is that correct?
correct,
And you're familiarizing yourself with the rules and regulations of the liquor board?
correct,
And in addition to that, you're on the premises, or Manuel's on the premises at all times?
correct.
And how far away do you live?
We live 4 blocks away on Fountain Street,
So you're within walking distance, is that correct?
very close walking distance.
Do you feel that by granting liquor license will have any adverse effect on health, safety, welfare, crime, traffic in the area?
No,
You think it'll affect any other businesses that are there?
no.
And along with that, do your type of
Folks,
business,
can we have quiet so we can hear? Thank you.
for the uniqueness of your business is that you're a restaurant bakery, is that correct?
Correct,
And there are other commercial businesses up and down Fell Street, is that correct?
correct, yes,
About a block away is the real busy part of Fells Point, where they have a lot of licenses.
correct. We're just like a block away from everything.
All right, then the closest one to you would be what, Chilango's and the one on Wolf Street around the corner?
Correct.
And then you got one on the corner. There's another bakery up there, Patango's, is that correct?
Tangos, yes.
And they have similar type of operation, all right?
As in sandwiches and coffee.
And then you have,
And-
yours is a little bit different.
Correct.
Okay, I have no further questions to this witness. You gonna ask them any questions? I'm sorry.
Just a couple questions, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Can you identify yourself for the record,
Yes,
please?
for the record, David F. Mr. Winter and Bartlett LLC, representing the community protestants today. Mr. Thibodeau, your bakery was located at a different location in Fells Point before, correct?
Correct.
And what was that address?
2001 Fleet Street.
Okay. And why did you leave the previous location on Fleet?
We outgrew the facilities and we were looking to expand initially.
Did your previous landlord either evict you or refuse to
don't-
extend your lease?
Appropriate.
Well, let me hear.
He refused to extend our lease, and that was another reason why we were looking for our own location.
And what was your understanding as the reasons that he refused to extend your lease?
Again, another,
Overruled, do you know?
Don't know.
That's all the questions I have right now.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
nothing in rebuttal. The other, stand up is Mr. Manuel, he's the other licensee, whether his testimony would be cumulative at this point. And I'll put on a few witnesses, okay?
Have either of them ever had a license, a liquor
No.
license before? Okay.
But I mentioned it to you, you said you would hire a manager that would be certified in alcohol, is that correct?
Correct.
Help you along with that?
Yes.
All right. And you don't anticipate that the alcohol part of your business is going to be, it can't be more than 50%, but you think it's going to be much lower than that, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, I have no further questions.
Okay.
And Mr. Sanchez,
I
Emmanuel.
understand, you said it was going to be cumulative. And What other evidence do you want to put on?
I'm going to have a couple of the witnesses that'll testify.
Okay, about what their experience was there?
And the people in the restaurant business?
No, their experience at at this location.
Yeah. Well, while you were at Sakura-Suka, what has your experience been there with regard to the people that have been coming in and using your business?
Everyone's very joyous on what we're doing there. And slowly we're growing to be a full business, like
Can you speak up? 'Cause-
Sure. Everyone's just really happy that we're there, that,
Okay. Did you want, I didn't know, did you want to put on a patron? Is that what you?
Yeah, a couple of the
Call
people in the
one.
neighborhood. I'm going to put one or two
We'll
more.
call one up.
All right, thanks, sit down. Beth?
Your name, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name is Beth Hawks.
Good morning, Ms. Hawks.
And
What
then-
did- Go ahead.
What is your familiarity with Fells Point?
Well, one thing you know for certain and two things you know for sure. If I show up at the liquor board, I mean business. I'm not here to protest a liquor license, which I usually am here for. I'm here to support an incredible business. I have actually protested many, many licenses at the jeopardy of my own livelihood and the safety of my life. I have been threatened by bar owners in the past. I was on Cross Street for 11 years, and I stood firm against some of the biggest boys in South Baltimore. It wasn't fun. So now I moved my business to Fells Point 12 years ago, and I have a beautiful business, not only outside but inside. And to watch the transformation over the past couple years, one of these businesses being Sacre Sucre, I watched this building transform from a cocoon to a butterfly before our very eyes. That these two men spent so much money. When I walked into that business, I was blown away. It looks like you're in Paris, London, or New York City. I actually told them if they had asked me before, would you open up in Fells Point, I would have said no. I would have said you guys should be in St. Michael's, Easton, or Washington, D.C. But we are so blessed having them in Fells Point because their caliber is so high. So they open up at 9 a.m. on the weekend, so I go up there to support them. There's a line down the block, all very elegant, well-dressed, classy people. They have already agreed, time and time again, they're not going to do drag brunches, live music. They're not going to have ice luges. I mean, these guys just want you to come in on a date and have like a savory with a glass of champagne. I just don't understand. Fells Point is the crown jewel of this city, and we have people fleeing the city, not only residents, but businesses. And we need to encourage more investment in the city. And that these young men spent $2.1 million blows my mind. I am so impressed.
Now, your business is, give the address.
I own Zelda Zen at 1634 Thames Street. So I find it ironic that there's between 3 and 4 pub crawls in Fells Point that none of the residents have problems with. My flowers get pulled out, my business
Okay,
gets
all right,
puked
I
on.
understand. I'm not
But you-
interested
But
in your
why is
business.
there no opposition to that?
Let's ask
All right,
questions.
so you're in favor of granting this,
1,000%.
and because you would add to the business and an amenity for the business?
Absolutely. It's something wonderful to be able to send the guests at the Henderson's Wharf down there to get breakfast, or the Admiral Fell Inn, or the Four Seasons, or the Pendry.
All right, Dave, you have any, Mr. Minister, I'm sorry. All right. I just want the rest of them will be cumulative. Or rebuttal.
But let's ask questions, okay?
Gives you name and address.
Sure. Kapaolian Lin, spelled Kuopalian. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners.
And then what is your relationship to this business? Do you have a business down there? Do you live down there?
Right. So we've been, I've lived in Baltimore since 2003, so we've been there for over 20 years, and all in the Fells Point neighborhood. We are residents, we own property there, we own businesses there, we continue to expand our businesses there. We've invested so
When you
much.
say we, who are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry, me and my wife, my partner, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Our company, and we, as an architect, as a developer, as a contractor, as a landlord as well, you know, we strive to celebrate all of our small businesses in the neighborhood, particularly minority-owned businesses, local small businesses. And if this is Baltimore City that we understand and know, that I think we need to support to make our city thrive more with supporting our small businesses. That's what makes Fells Point unique and special, in our opinion. And historically, that's how it was built. It was built from small businesses, many from immigrant backgrounds. And
Where is your business in conjunction with this one here?
our businesses are on Fleet Street between Wolf and Washington, and also on Ann Street between Fleet and Alexander.
So you're familiar with the area, you're familiar with this business, is that correct?
That's correct.
You're a patron.
We are a patron of not only their businesses, but all the businesses in the
Let's
neighborhood.
go with this one specifically, because
Yeah.
they're asking for a beer and wine liquor license.
Sure.
Do you think that would be amenity that would be add to the business and wouldn't disturb the neighborhood?
It would not disturb the neighborhood. It would be an amenity. It would be an enhancement to their current operations and their current line that they provide. And again, it's not the singular focus of their business. There's many businesses in the neighborhood that is their primary focus, that's their primary revenue generator. Here, it would enhance their business and support what they're doing and make the products that they provide, that are exquisite products that are not known just locally but globally, even better. And as mentioned before, it is celebrating positive patronage, in my opinion, and that's what we really want to have in Fells Point. Why would we not support that?
Do you feel that they would have any adverse effect in the neighborhood with regard to crime, traffic, or anything like that?
No, in fact, I think that it would improve any kind of issues when it comes to more people on the streets. That's what we want. We want more patronage on the streets. We want people that are in the neighborhood, actually living in the neighborhood and actually using and buying from our local neighbors. And so we will have more people on the streets. We'll have more people, taking advantage of one of the most historic neighborhoods in our town. And so I think it would only create a positive impact in the neighborhood.
Okay. Mr. you have questions for this
I
witness?
have no questions.
All right, thank you.
I would
Thank you.
indicate that the other people that are here that stood up would be in favor, and their testimony would be cumulative in this case, and
All right.
that would be our case in chief, subject to rebuttal.
Okay. Mr., do you have something to present?
Mr. Chairman, I do have, we have 6 brief witnesses that we would like to call, and I've explained to them the board's desires and practices we don't want redundancy.
Well, I
We don't want people to
would
go on.
prefer if you would question them.
I would be happy to do
I
that.
don't really want to be lectured. Okay.
I understand that. I hope the chairman doesn't think that I am lecturing the board.
No.
No, okay. If I may then, Mr. Chairman, first I'd like to call Ms. Kate Sims. Ms.
Please come
Sims?
forward.
Speak into the microphone. You were sworn in, were you not?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just make sure, K-A-T-E?
Yep.
S-I-M-M-S?
Yep.
Ms. Sims, you're the president of the Fells Point Residents Association, is that correct?
Correct.
How long have you been the president of that association?
Since 2022.
Okay, and in that capacity, you also live in the community?
Yes, my
Okay.
whole life, actually.
Well, how long is that?
48 years.
Congratulations. You're here today because I understand you're in opposition to this application, is that correct?
So our board had tried to facilitate negotiations for an MOU, and it stalled, mostly because we couldn't get a clear plan from the business owners what their business operation plan was going to be. And particularly in respect to the second floor, we were originally told that it would be kitchen space only, and then there was mention that it might be party space. So when trying to draft an MOU with terms, we wanted a clear idea of what to request. So our board would like to request that if it is approved, that it is conditional on an MOU with the community, so that
So
everyone
I understand something. So
remains.
has Matt from our board been involved in your negotiations?
Yes,
Okay. And you've met with the applicants,
yes.
and they won't answer your questions?
They would not provide us with, we had asked them for like a simple one-pager with things like, you know, what their hours of operation,
He just
you know.
testified about those. Did you hear him?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
But he wouldn't tell you beforehand?
No, there was a lot of back and forth, and particularly with the second floor, which was of the most concern with the neighbors, like, is it gonna be a party space, is it gonna be kitchen space?
Has he testified about that?
Yes, they're not using the second floor for that. It's not even an application. We didn't ask for it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotta get 'em. So we didn't ask for the second floor at all. It's only a kitchen on the second floor. So it's not part of the application.
Okay.
So, that,
So, Ms. Sims, there previously was a business at this location that had an alcoholic beverage license, is that correct?
yes.
And did your organization enter into an MOU with that business operator?
Lucky Buns, you mean, or Dead
Yeah,
End?
well, whoever the last one or two that were
Lucky
there.
Buns, we did not. That was in the middle of COVID, and things got a little confused then, so we did not have one
How
with
about with
them.
Dead End Saloon?
I believe there was one with Dead End. That was way before my time on the board, though.
And the agreement was that they would not use the second floor, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the board?
I'm confused. So you now know the hours of operation, and you know they're not going to use the second floor, and you can't reach an MOU?
Well, this is all new information.
Okay.
We have not been asked to come back to the table about an MOU.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might add, I think there were a few other things that some of the residents desired that the applicants objected to. I don't think it was just that, and it'll come out with some of the other witnesses.
Okay, but the Fells Point Residents Association was satisfied with those issues?
There was also a question about an entrance, one versus two entrances on the Fell Street, Wolf Street side, because the building goes from one end to the other. So there was some concerns about using both entrances for just security, and given that we have some safety concerns in the neighborhood, just overall, you know, how are they gonna use one? And it was the preference of residents that they pick one and not have both open all the time. And that was the other sticking point that they did not wanna negotiate with.
But they were going to have security?
No, that was never presented to us.
Mr. Kadeski, you have any cross-examination?
Yeah, I was at that meeting and Matt was there, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah, and it was actually
And
in the location.
that one was,
Yeah,
yes.
and there was people there, say there were 30 people, 15 were in favor and 15 were not so much, they wanted some conditions. Would that be fair to say?
Maybe, I don't remember.
Well, some-
I don't remember exactly.
All right, and in between there, you've been in there since they opened?
I have not, no.
Is there any reason why you haven't been in there?
No,
All right.
just, it's not on my side of Broadway.
And when the Dead End was there with Barbara Grella, she had two entrances, didn't she? She went from Wolf Street and Fell Street?
Not that I recall.
Were you in there when it was the Dead End, when Barbara had it?
Probably, yes. I mean, that was,
No, enough.
you know, 20 years ago,
Just-
so.
Your association doesn't represent everybody, and Fells Point only represents people that are in your group, correct?
I mean, we try and represent as much of
Well,
Fells
the
Point
only
as
reason I'm saying
possible.
this, that we handed a petition with 240-something names, of which most of the people are all in Fells Point. They're entitled to be represented, is that correct?
Our group is open to anyone in Fells Point.
No further questions.
Okay. Anything further?
Not from this witness.
Okay.
Thank you.
Call Nicholas Japko. Mr. Japko, or Dr. Japko, you've been
I'm
sworn
sorry,
in,
I
have you
forget-
not?
I think he's spelling my name.
J-A-B as in boy, K-O.
And the first name is Nicolas. Mr. Japko, what do you do for a living?
I'm a professor of political science at Johns Hopkins.
That's Johns Hopkins University here in
Yes.
Baltimore. Okay. And you happen to be a resident of Fells Point, have you not?
Yes. I
As a matter of
have-
fact, you're immediately next door. You have a historic mansion that's immediately next door to this proposed business.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, I've lived
Can
there
you tell
12 years.
the board about your home and its history?
So it's a landmark that is in all the guidebooks of Baltimore, you know, all the architectural guidebooks of Baltimore, and it's central to the historic character of the streets and of, I would say, the National Historic District of Fells Point in general. It's been on all the tours, the historic tours of Fells Point.
dare I say that you might be the person most affected by this potential application if the board grants this alcoholic beverages license. What are the concerns that you have? Please express them succinctly to the board if you would.
So basically, as you may be able to tell from my accent, I was born and raised in France, and I came to Baltimore 12 years ago to live in this house. And when I first moved in, it was basically a small, quiet neighborhood. It was the bar next door, which was called the Dead End, was very much a local bar, and we basically wanted to keep it this way, and we still do. Now, there has been pressure from owners of this building, and this is just the last one, who want to build a second-story addition and to potentially have customers there.
But they don't.
Well, they have never said they would.
They didn't apply for it, so it's not an issue for us.
It's not an issue now, but
But that's all I'm hearing is what's in front of me now.
I understand.
I may
but-
not be alive tomorrow to hear it some the next.
Yes, but they've never promised that.
They don't have to promise you anything.
No, they don't have to promise anything, but I think the neighborhood, because of their history that was mentioned before, and their history of disrespect of their neighbors, which there will be a testimony about, and which you have an affidavit about, is very concerned about what this could become, and that is the reason why we are
Let me
basically.
just explain to you, Dr. Lewis. We hear these things in pieces. If we approve this as a first-floor operation today, and they want to do the second, they have to come back.
Yes.
So I have to go through it again. And I don't want to hear it twice. I want to hear that when it's in front of me.
Okay, and I'm all with you on that,
Okay.
because I don't want to be here every year, and I would rather if they promise that there will not be any
Yeah,
customers
I don't know
upstairs.
about that, but,
If they,
but
you
they're
know-
not getting it today.
So, Doctor, let me ask you
Yes.
questions also. In anticipation of, since you've known this has been pending for a while, in anticipation of your opposition to this, you prepared a petition in opposition
Yes.
to it, did you not? And how many persons signed that petition?
So 80 people signed on to that petition because they have the same concerns as I do.
Okay, and to your knowledge, by and large, they're all immediate residents of the community, is that correct?
Yes, most of them are in the immediate vicinities, including an overwhelming majority of single-family homeowners on the street, on Fell Street.
And you've already previously submitted that petition to the board as an exhibit, is
Yes,
that
a
not
few
correct?
names were added to it, but
Okay.
yes.
All right, and one of your concerns is the fact that this operation is a massive expansion over what was previously there under Dead End or the Bun, whatever Bun's
You mean
was.
physically, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, physically.
It's hard for the board to envision this. So you had a bar next to you, and now you have a bakery that doesn't have a bar.
Yeah, but they want to have a liquor license.
Right,
They would
so
be,
they-
there would be a liquor selling operation.
I understand that.
And, what you have to understand also is that Dead End was a very small operation that had a kitchen on the first floor. They have their kitchen on the second floor already. So, the first floor was divided, and it was really a very small neighborhood
So you're
bar.
saying this is a larger operation?
This is already a larger operation as it stands now, and they want to make it larger by building a second-story addition.
Not today.
Well, no, but they're actively planning for that. They've secured authorization for that, and that's fine, but they basically claim to the neighborhood association that this second-story operation would be for an expanded kitchen. So we want to make sure that it's not going to be, and that's what the restrictions on the MOU was designed to do, it's not going to be for customers. And the attorney has gone back and forth with us, as Kate Sims explained to you. He has said at some points that this would be for
Mr.
parties.
Kadansky?
Yes. Mr. Kadansky has said to us and to Dave Mister that this would be for parties. At some point, they have said that they didn't know what this would be for. But prior to this, in June 2023, they said at a public meeting on the record at the Fells Point Residents Association that it would be only for an expanded kitchen, which is how they got a split vote on this, because people said, well, if they need an expanded kitchen, that's fine. And I would be fine with that too, but I suspect that's not the only thing that's going on, So that's
You just
basically.
can't do it on conjecture, then.
Okay, Dr. Jabko, it's your understanding from the documents previously filed, and I think consistent with what Mr. Kadensky's presented today, that they desire to serve about 138 customers, which you understand to be like at least twice as much as what the previous operation did.
That is what, okay, so, yes, that is twice as much. I think the previous operation had 82 seats. So, and that actually was less than
So
that.
answer this question,
Yes.
because, so if I'm in Fells Point and I want to drink alcohol, I go to a bakery before I go to any of the other places?
I mean, they don't, if they were going to stay the way they are, to stay on the first floor and to have a liquor license, there would be no objection from the community. The issue is they have a history of disrespecting their neighbors. They're, putting their trash cans outside.
If other witnesses are going to testify to
Yeah,
that, let's
true,
leave it
true.
with them.
So the point is, yes, we're completely fine with what they are. We're not fine with what they could become when given a liquor license without restrictions. That's what we're really concerned about.
What restriction on the liquor license?
So the previous owner of the building had restrictions, and they were not authorized to build a second-story addition because the kitchen was large enough. It is still large enough. But if they want to build a second-story addition for an expanded kitchen, it is their right. They've secured that, but we don't want it to be for anything else. And
I understand that, but
Yeah.
what would you have us do? We don't have an application in front of us for a second-story bar. We
No.
only have one in front of us for a first-floor bar.
True.
We have to say yes or no. What do you
Yes.
want us to do?
well, we submitted to their attorney a memorandum of
Right, you can
underst-
negotiate with him all day and all night as
Yes,
far as we're concerned.
but
We'd be
the-
delighted if you get an MOU.
Yes, but
But we can't make you get an MOU.
no, I understand that, but what you can say is, that without an MOU that addresses the needs of the community, they cannot have the liquor license.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but Mr. Cadenzi knows us well enough to know that we heavily prefer MOUs with neighborhood
I'm sure,
associations.
yes.
So if he's going to come in here without one and do something that the neighborhood's opposed to, he's got an uphill climb.
I'm glad to
He
hear
knows
it.
that.
Yes. But like, for example, as Dave Mister mentioned and as Kate Sims also mentioned, this is the first time we're getting a seating plan, So we had no idea where these 138
Have
seats.
you never been in the place?
I have been in the place,
Okay.
yes.
Is it different from, this seating plan different from what's there now?
It's, I didn't count 138 seats. If they say that they're all going to be on the first floor, that's fine with me. I do want to highlight the fact that it's twice as many as the previous liquor license. So this would be already a big ask on the community. And we're prepared to consider that, but we would want, concessions in exchange for that for the MOU. And we proposed an MOU through our attorney, and that MOU was rejected because presumably they don't want to commit to the second floor being only an expanded kitchen, contrary to what they claimed publicly on the record at the Fells Point Residents Association in June 2023. They've been obfuscating this issue. The attorney has said that maybe it's going to be for parties. They don't know what it's going to be. Well, we want to know, and we feel that as residents of the streets and as people who want to preserve the residential and historic character of our neighborhood, we feel that we have, a standing on this.
I feel like we're going around in circles
Yeah,
because.
I'm sorry. I can, yes.
I think.
And I don't know anything about the prior license, but this license requires 75 seats minimum. You understand that?
We do understand that.
Dr. Jabko, have you stated your position today? Is there anything else you want to submit?
I think that's it.
Okay.
I'm-
Mr. Kadensky?
Just let me ask you a few questions. You understand that your house is in a commercial district?
I do.
Okay. And you said you moved there 12 years ago. Who operated the establishment?
It was the dead end. which was a small.
Who was it? Who was the name of the person?
Barbara, I can't remember her last
Is
name.
it Barbara Grella?
Yes, probably.
She had entrances on Wolf Street and on Fell Street.
Yes.
Okay. And she was basically on the first floor, correct?
She was on the first floor.
All right,
And
number
She
two.
had tenants living upstairs.
Got that. Right next to that was where the Red Star was on Wolf Street, correct?
On Wall Street, yes.
Okay. And right down the street is Chilango's
Yes, on Wall Street, yes.
at the end of Fell Street. It ends into where Chilango's is, in the Union.
It's not on Fell Street at all. It's
Okay,
on
Wolf Street. That's
Yes.
where Fell Street ends. Fell Street's how many?
I mean,
2
it's
blocks?
a block away.
Okay,
You know,
I
we're
got it.
also a block away from Thames Street, you know, but
And-
we're very residential streets. There
When-
is no other store on that street.
You're residential in a commercial district.
Yes,
Okay.
like, I mean, you know, I'm from Paris originally, and it's a place where there is harmony between the residents and the businesses for the most part.
Now-
And this is something that we like as residents, and we want to preserve. That's basically what our concerns are.
Now, when you say we and you, the residents, you understand there was a petition with 246 people who also live in the area that are in favor of this. You understand that?
We understand that they put their petition out there, and anybody could sign it. We don't know if they live in this area. We basically, you know, you circulated that petition. I almost signed it before realizing what it was. That is the way in which they proceed. Our petition was focused on local residents of the street, and as I said, an overwhelming majority of single-family homeowners signed our petition, not theirs.
So you have 98 people in Fell Street that signed, so they're not local people.
We have 80 people.
I'm asking you about the ones we have. 98 people on Fell Street signed a petition. You're telling me they're not local people.
They may be living in one of the big apartment buildings at the end of Fell Street.
And they're entitled to sign a petition, correct?
They are entitled, but they're not within the 200 feet. They're not within the 200
All right,
feet.
gentlemen,
rule.
I don't need to hear that. We've already
Yes, yeah.
I'm
dealt
not-
with the 200 feet. Do you have witnesses with other issues other than these 3 issues that you've identified?
The previous landlord is here to testify about the character of the applicants. and
Okay.
his interaction with them. He would be my next witness. Ms. Thanos is here, who is an immediate neighbor, to talk about the problems that they've had already and what effect that might have on her residency there. There were 2 other people who would be brief, because I don't want to give, I know the board doesn't want to hear redundant testimony.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what the issues are. So I know now there was an issue about the hours, there was an issue about the 2 entrances. They want to talk about the second floor, but it's not in front of us. So what are the issues?
I think there's some issues to talk about parking and traffic, the various 4-210 issues, disturbance to the neighborhood, and I think
Okay.
it's incumbent on us to put some evidence on about that. So if I make any argument, you can say, where's the evidence?
Okay.
And we're going to try and make it as quick as we can. Thank you, Dr. Chairman. Could I call Josh Adlin, please?
Good afternoon, my name is Josh Adlin. My last name is spelled A as in apple, D as in David, L-I, N as in November. I'm a business owner of a property management firm, and the office is located at 2001 Fleet Street in Fells Point.
In your capacity as a property manager, did you have occasion to have the applicants as previous tenants of one of your properties?
Yes, I did.
And which property was that?
The same property as my office, 2001 Fleet Street.
Okay. And would you please tell the board your experiences with them and what, if anything, impact you think that has on their fitness to be alcoholic beverage licensees at this location?
When they first opened up their business, the space that I managed was their first space for this store for Sacre Sucre, and I supported them, did my best to support them as, you know, both as a tenant and also as a new business and just as people in the neighborhood. Everything went well for a while, and then we encountered a problem with ventilation from their baking operation, getting into tenant spaces and causing health issues with the tenants. That was the biggest issue. I can go into detail on that. I'm not sure how much you'll want to hear.
Well, did you get it resolved?
It is resolved in that I made the changes, paid for the changes out of my own pocket, and billed them and have never been reimbursed.
Mr. Chair, no health department, you never called the health department to come in and check?
I did call, sir, I did call. The problem was it was hard to figure out who exactly, when I called, they didn't know where to send me. It was, what was coming out of their operation was exhaust from their ovens, which you wouldn't think that's a big deal. However, one of the tenants who was having the health issues, these were chronic health issues that were just coming up from, they didn't know where, they happened to be measuring PM 2.5, the particulates it's classified as pollution by the EPA, and it's known as these very small particles that get into your lungs and cause, and eyes and everywhere and cause damage. He was monitoring that for another reason. He happened to be monitoring in his
I would like
apartment.
to object on him. I don't know what it is, who's an expert here, testing what relevance it has with here, but
Well, I mean, I thought this went to the issue of whether they were going to be good people to have a liquor license, and apparently they weren't great tenants. Is that what your testimony is?
In very brief, yes.
Okay.
Was there an issue with regard to the trash can storage of trash on the property?
Yes, sir. Their lease required them to manage their own trash services. I allowed them to use the building trash services for a while, and they, when I told them they needed to do it on their own, they ended up just putting trash cans on the sidewalk permanently. They didn't, they never disappeared, so. And this is a historic building.
And your interactions were that you basically found them refusing or failing to, in fact, remediate the things you asked them to remediate, is that correct?
That is correct.
As a result, you actually evicted them from the property, is that correct?
I served them with a notice of eviction on May 30th of 2023. They responded with an email and a letter. The email arrived June 16th of 2023. And to the prior testimony, that response said, as part of the letter, we are in receipt of your notice stating that the lease will expire in 30 days. So they did receive notice of eviction.
Witness with you, Mr. Kudensky.
so the lease expired and they moved. At least you indicated, you said the lease expired, was going to expire in 30 days, and they moved.
I gave them a notice of eviction. They disagreed with that, did not move on the date that they were supposed to. They decided to move out another month after
Let
that.
me just, they own this building now, right?
This building they're in now,
So
they do.
they're not a tenant anymore?
No.
Right. And they were not subject to any rules and regulations other than the health department at your place. At our place, if they violate our rules, we revoke their license. They can't leave trash on the street or we'll violate them. But it's a different situation slightly. Okay.
Well, just the last question, where your property is located, it used to be a restaurant supply store, correct?
No.
So was it Nelson Adlin your father?
Yes.
That's when they purchased it sometime, and you're saying there was not a restaurant supply on that corner?
To my knowledge, no.
All right, across the street, you have Ale Mary's,
Correct.
it's a liquor restaurant. Right now, right across the street, catty corner is another bar, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, no further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Jamet Thanos. So, Mrs. Thanos, as well as the other remaining witnesses, I just want to remind you, the board's policy here, we don't want redundancy. Bring us your new points, please.
Well, this is not our only case today. We've got to move along.
I understand that, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Go ahead, Ms. Thanos.
My name is Jamet Thanos, Jimettettethanos. Good morning and thank you. I am a resident at 921 Fells Street. It's been my home for 44 years. I've watched Fells Point develop into something very beautiful, and I've watched it develop into something very ugly at nighttime. It's an alcohol-fueled neighborhood now. It's lawless. The only accountability or the only person that pays the price are the residents. I sent, I don't know if you received it, a photograph of my front barrel, flower barrel, and there's disposed condoms. When I asked someone to keep the noise down, they came back at 2:15 in the morning. They twisted my light fixtures.
Does this have anything to do with the applicants?
No, with a restricted license. I'm asking for a restricted license.
Restricted how?
Well, with an MOI.
Yeah, but we can't do that, so
You can't do that.
we can't make them do it. You have to negotiate with them.
Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could. Anyway,
It's
I
called
just.
an agreement, you know.
Well, I just wanted to share my feelings with you.
Yeah,
how
that's
I feel
fine, but
about
I
it.
understand your feelings. But I'm sure it's not easy to live in a situation where there are people coming in by the hundreds to drink and do whatever, but I can't blame these two people for all of that.
No, but they're asking for a toll clock license.
Yeah.
I don't understand why a bakery needs a toll clock license.
I understand, so you
That's,
think the hours
that's
are-
just, that strikes me as.
Yeah, we
as
don't create
strange.
the hours on the licenses, you know.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
You're welcome, but
Thank you, Mr.
it
Knapp.
sounds like you all need to sit down and talk, but,
They won't negotiate. I wish,
Well-
I wish.
That's not a fair,
Hold on, mister. Do you have any questions, Ms.
no,
Adams?
no further ones. That's not a fair
Okay.
characterization. Been in this thing ad nauseum, and the father, all kinds of others, no.
anyway, okay, what else?
I have two potentially more witnesses. Again, I remind everybody, no redundancy. David Johnson, that's me, one of them.
Pretty easy to spell. David Johnson, Johnsson, a middle initial M is usually good, and even Mathis, because there are a lot of David Johnsons in the world.
Morning, Mr. Johnson.
Where do you live, Mr. Johnson?
I live at 913 Fell Street, same side as the bakery, about 5 houses down, just past what used to be an ad agency. As a homeowner on this street, which is highly residential, which you've heard someone say before, I'm concerned that long-term, when I go to sell, it becomes a bar street, that one bar comes in and it's followed by another. And there have been, I've been there 14 years, and there have been at least 4 attempts by, people are attracted by the money, people who don't live in Fells Point who do. They first one was they wanted to make a beer bar so big it went all the way from Ann Street Wharf, all the way through the building to our thing. We defeated that. Then there was the pizza, taking the small, what was it, the Dead End, and making it into a massive pizza thing and building a thing, and we defeated that. Then there were 2 girls, it might be new for you guys, who decided to totally avoid you and avoid all that. They built an illegal rooftop bar and ran what they called it, said it was a museum. It was a selfie museum, and so they would hold alcohol parties there with no liquor license, and they got away with that with permits from some rinky-dink, the housing authority or something, for 2 years. And finally, now we're back at this pizza place, which they want to expand, and I'm just concerned, I'm concerned for my property value. I'm also concerned, it is a highly residential neighborhood. In my 14 years, I've seen crops of babies become these little kids who come back for school. And it could be a poster child for what the city wants, which is people to stay in the city and make homes in the city. I hope, is that sufficient?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Very briefly, when you bought, you knew it was a commercial zoned area, correct?
I didn't know that it was, I didn't know the specifics of it. I actually thought, no, it wasn't. I don't understand why it is commercial zone. There's no
The question is, if you didn't
businesses.
know, you didn't know.
Yeah.
There are other restaurants at the end of Fell Street, Chilango's down at the end, the Tango's.
Nothing on Fell Street. The only thing on Fell Street was ever at the Dead End, which is now, and I'm glad they have a coffee shop. I like that.
Have you been in there?
I have not, because I know people who have, and I see it. I'm not sure if they'd be happy with me coming in. They know I'm a neighbor.
Well, you're entitled to go in there.
Yeah.
You just don't go in.
I'd be happy for them to have their liquor license and be on the first floor if they're gonna be building that kitchen and doing all, and
I'm not
becoming a
asking
big
that question.
place.
That's not what we weren't asking.
Yeah,
It's gonna be-
Okay.
We
Anything
have an
else?
invitation from Mr. Kaczynski. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
okay.
Lastly, Mark Berman. Mr. Berman? And I remind you, try not to be redundant, sir.
Yes, sir. Mark Berman, M-A-R-K-B-E-R-M-A-N. And to be clear, I brought this much, and I'm down to 2 notes.
Okay.
So we'll be succinct.
Tell us where you live and where you are in proximity to this location.
My wife, who is also here, and I live at 936 Fell Street, directly across the street from the bakery.
What are your concerns as to the impact of this application on your residency?
First, let me just say, as a lifelong Baltimorean and as my grandfather started a similar operation in West Baltimore in a row house, which became Mary Sue Candies. And so we, at least my family knows what it's like to integrate with the neighborhood and work together with the neighborhood. My concerns are the hours on the license. I think the neighborhood has made clear that all we want is an MOU that restricts it to, from the bakery, that restricts it to hours that are appropriate for a bakery, closing at 6 or 8 o'clock or even 10. Right now, the license with no negotiation, with no response from them where they were willing to agree to an MOU with limited hours is not acceptable to us in the neighborhood because a change of fixtures and what is a bakery becomes a bar, and that's our concern. Number two, the dead end, to clarify in the testimony given earlier, had an unsigned backdoor entrance to it on Wolf Street. They operated with one entrance for all those years. I've been there for 38 years in either Thames Street or in my home. Lucky Buns had one entrance, the other was an emergency exit. What we're looking for is to maintain the tranquility of Fell Street as a residential street and have the commercial entrance be on Wolf Street, which I believe is reasonable and would not affect their business. And then I understand that it's not on the docket for the expansion. Obviously, there are concerns that it turns into something else. Those are our two concerns. It's a pretty simple MOU to agree to if only there would be a conversation with the other side. I think this could all be resolved because we, frankly, one moment, I was very impressed by the testimony we heard earlier. As a Baltimorean, I started my business in my home across the street. We have $2.5 million in annual revenue in just 5 years. That the tranquility, I didn't choose to locate it on Thames Street. I chose to locate my home and my business on Fell Street. So I love all of the things that you said, that you were particularly eloquent on why we should be supporting businesses like this. They should just fit in with the neighborhood. So I urge you to reject the application so that they will come back with an MOU that meets those two requests of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Berman.
Just
Mr.
very
Clancy.
briefly, you understand there was many discussions back and forth between the applicants and representatives, along with the representatives of the liquor board. You understand that? Did you involved in?
I was present. I was present with you.
When I was there.
Yes, sir.
You look familiar. Now, when you say we and us, you're talking for your group. It would be disingenuous to say these other people who signed this petition, they certainly have a voice in their neighbors, correct?
What the difference between the pile of signatures that you have and the one that was presented on this side is these are all within 200 feet. And that was open to anyone, which includes Upper Fells Point. People from all over signed it. And of course, when you look at a larger scope of signatures, you're going to get more signatures.
So you got 98 people from Fell Street. Tell me where Fell Street begins and where does it end?
Fell Street begins at Thames Street, however,
Thames
200
and
feet.
Ann Street.
Thames
Thames and Ann.
Thames Street is, excuse me?
Is it
You asked
Thames?
a
But I'm
question.
saying it's Thames, you say Thames. Thames is along. Is it Thames and Ann?
Thames and Ann and
Okay.
Fell meet, but that they meet farther than 200 feet away from the property.
My question, that's where it starts. It ends at Wolf Street, correct?
Correct.
So that's about a block. Ann, Wolf. Okay.
Fell Street ends beyond where Wolf merges with Fell Street. It ends
Goes
at
through.
Henderson's Wharf.
Okay.
Yes.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Berman.
Thank you.
If I may, I just would like the other persons here in person that are protesting just to be able to stand. so
That's
the board
fine.
rec- Those of you that are here in opposition to this today, would you please stand? Those that have already testified, we know who you are. Those who have not, could you just briefly state your name and where you live in proximity to us? Ma'am.
My name is Tanya Berman, and I live across Segura. My address is 936 Bell Street.
Are you Mrs. Berman? Okay.
Mr. If you could have them spell their names.
Okay, spell your first name, ma'am.
T is in Tom, E is in elephant, T is in Tom, Y is in Yankee, A is in apple, N is in Nancy, A is in apple.
And Berman is the last name. Sir.
They need to come to the mic.
I'm
You
sorry.
can't do it from that far.
Come on up. Come on.
George Frazier.
I live 424 South Dallas Street in Fells Point.
Okay, how far are you from the location?
I'm about 4 blocks.
Okay, thank you. Sir? Come on up.
My name is John Wills. I live at 911 Fell Street, and I second the comments from Mr. Berman about hope that there's an MOU that is reached.
Sir, identify yourself.
My name is
please.
Stephen Lampredi. I live on I live on Bank Street, near Fells Point, and I would support their business with glee if they would sign the agreement.
If we can get a last name spelling.
LAMP, like a lamp, and then REDI.
My name is Mary Bickford. I live at 517 South Wolf Street, and I again would welcome the bakery, but not the liquor license. I was a realtor in Fells Point for 30 years, so I've seen a lot of changes, and many for the good and a few not so good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is Bickford Bickford?
Correct.
How we all have other than some maybe brief summation?
That's one behind you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I beg your pardon, ma'am.
My name's Ann Gummerson, and I live on the 800 block of Ann Street.
Last name spelling?
Gummerson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I could give you the names of these people that are here.
It's not,
No, I got it.
this is not a who has more people operation.
That's been my, well, let me, in summation,
Can you speak up to the mic, Mr. Tedeschi,
No, but you
please?
might want to be with the microphone.
Come on, we got to move this along. Got another case.
You know, first of all, regarding Fells Point, it's probably nobody knows more about Fells Point than me. I've been born there. They're talking about a commercial district, have licenses there. It's in a.
Cut to the chase, Mr. Tedeschi. What's the problem with entering into an MOU?
Because it's only one portion of the other people that don't want to go with MOU. You can't have one little
I
segment.
don't know that they don't want an MOU. They like the place, but they have any objection to
The
them entering
MOU
into an MOU?
is not, and Matt will tell you, I'm sorry, Matt Ackenheimer was there, they can't agree on anything, so there's no sense having an MOU. They can't agree, first of all, that we're saying there's no upstairs. We're not expanding the upstairs, other than what we asked for the kitchen. Number two, the entrances, they have 2 entrances, always had 2 entrances, always been approved by the city for 2 entrances. They don't want 2 entrances.
Well, they don't want 2 entrances. So what do you have to do? You have to figure out some way to address the issues that are caused by having 2 entrances,
But
right?
Mr. Chairman, it's only for a segment, a small segment. How about the other people that come and line up on Fell Street and want to come in and eat? You can't restrict that. No other place has that. There's
I didn't
nobody,
say you were
Chilangos doesn't have it, Red Star doesn't have, none of them have it.
But what's the problem with having the 2 entrances for them? Is it security?
I have, there's no, it's a restaurant bakery. I don't know what kind of security you're talking about. The square has more security problems. And then they have people that are in favor, they meet the criteria. Well, and I think you said it as well as anybody else, if you give them a license, if for some reason they would stay open at 1:30, they have people hanging out on, that's not going to happen. They run the risk of not having the license renewed. And for everything you see, if you look at the place, it's a well-looking place, and their desire to have a license and run it within the terms and conditions of the license.
Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. I think the critical factors here are those in Section 4-210 of the Alcoholic Beverages Code. And without self-aggrandizement, I was involved in helping to draft the amendment to that, which is now 4-210, and the augmentation of it. So I think factors in that the board is supposed to consider, not necessarily find all these factors, but to consider them in a decision, includes matters regarding traffic, parking, and disturbance in the neighborhood. We've heard evidence from the nearby residents that they think all of those things could be problematic. I think the reason with the 2 entrances is it invites more activity. If you have more ways to come into the building, more people come. There's going to be a lot more traffic there, I believe. I posit that while the statute allows certain hours of operation, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., I think this board has discretion. If you decide to grant a license, you can grant it with conditions to it and limitations. And you can, in fact, direct that they have to limit their hours and they cannot operate 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. And also that there could be certain things such as not having multiple entrances. Obviously, keeping trash off the street, things like that. I would suggest that even in the absence of an MOU, this board has the authority to limit hours and limit activities. And I would hope that you would do that. I believe my clients were realistic, and they didn't think that this board would flat out deny a license application. They just desire to have some limitations of it so it's compatible with the residential, primarily residential neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Okay. One last thing. Can we get your applicant back up here, Mr. Thibodeau? I just want to understand your position, sir. It's that you will not negotiate anything further with these people?
All of the previous negotiations was always including the kitchen, the expansion. And that was something that was always pressed. So then we always said that has nothing to do with the liquor. So then that's why we've never gone further with the MOU.
So you can't be creative enough to think of some intermediate stance on these other issues that might be able to address some of their concerns and keep you happy as well?
We're not opposed to like having an MOU with like the certain hours, but in that MOU, it always has the kitchen, that expansion of the kitchen. So then that.
Well, you haven't applied for the kitchen, so
I
I
know,
can't
and
require
that's-
you to do that.
It's that that's what they want. It's always in the MOU. So then we're not gonna agree to the MOU because that's in the clause already.
Okay. All right, commissioners have questions?
No question.
I have no questions.
All right. All right, thank you, everyone. On the basis of the materials contained in the application, any proffers from council, all the testimony received, the arguments of council, I vote to approve a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license for these applicants. But I'm going to impose a condition, and that is that they continue their negotiations with the neighbors and the Fells Point Residents Association to try to address the issues of the hours, of anything they can do to assuage some of the concerns about the double entrance issue, and with the understanding that we're going to absolutely monitor this like we do all our locations, and if they are in violation of trash and other rules and regulations of our board, we will fine, suspend, or revoke their license if they don't comply. They are under, this license is under our control, and we will control it. So I would give all the parties 60 days to do that, and I want to hear back what the result of that is with respect to these things. As to the second floor, until they apply for that license, we can't address it. But when they do, I'm sure we will hear from you all. So that's my view. Commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just for clarity, you were saying you wanted to continue the communication. So can you clarify the 50 days? What's that mean? What is it you want done in
I want to
50
hear in
days?
60 days where they are with respect to the negotiation of a memorandum of understanding.
So they got to come back to us in 50 days? or
Report to
just
the board.
Report to the board. Okay, all
Mr.
right.
Chairman, could we ask that Matt be involved in that?
Absolutely. I was going to ask Matt to be involved
I know
anyway,
he likes
because
when I say that.
I'm not convinced that the rest of you can do it without Matt.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, sitting here for this time, when you used the word consideration, I seen there was a lot of assumption with the community, with this business. And if there's any issues, they could always come back to the board, especially with renewal or violation. And so based on material and testimony provided today, I vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license.
Based on the application materials, the exhibits that were admitted today, the numerous testimony that was given to us by both sides, and we heard everybody's testimony. We listened to everybody today. The proffers made by council and the arguments made by council, great arguments made by council today. Also vote to approve this new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license. I agree also with the chair that it should be conditioned on the continued negotiations between all of the parties and for them to try to come back within 60 days. I do believe that an agreement can be reached. I understand why there was an impasse. I understand, but now that all of the issues have been placed on the table, I think that the issues are now more narrowed and that you guys can come to some type of agreement that will make all the parties happy.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
Okay, I'd like to call exhibits for the 50% protest hearing. Exhibit number 1, 50% protest hearing timeline. 2, 50% protest hearing process outline. 3, map and list of property owners. 4, 12 affidavits. Moving to the transfer hearing. Licensee exhibit number 1, business plan. 2, licensee license copy 2021. 3, city view map. 4, menu. 5, appraisal. 6, seating chart. 7, photos. 8, petition of support.
5.
Opposition. Exhibit number 1, letter from Fells Point Resident Association dated 5/19/24. 2, 7 letters of opposition. 3, petition of opposition dated 10/13/23. And 4, petition of opposition dated 5/14/24.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
The board is going to stand in recess for 5 minutes while folks clear the room and prepare for the next hearing.
Off the record, 11:43.
All right, Ms. Schwartzberger, we're ready to go.
Thank you, sir. Thames Street Venture LLC, 1704 Thames Street, application to transfer ownership and location from a secured creditor of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 2501-03 Fleet Street to 1704 Thames Street, requesting live entertainment and outdoor table service. Please come forward.
All those who are here on this matter, please stand and raise your right hands, which does not mean I'm going to hear from you, but I may. Counsel, will you first identify yourself for the record, please?
Hi, my name is Denise Coe. I'm attorney at Community Law Center,
Can you
representing.
speak up? Your last name is what?
Denise Coe,
C-O-E?
K-O.
K-O-E? K-O-O?
Just K-O.
K-O,
Thank you.
okay.
I'm an attorney at Community Law Center, and
Okay.
I'm here for Fells Point Resident Association.
Okay, let me hear from other counsel.
Anastasia Nardangeli on behalf of the applicant, and my colleague Gus Emelis.
I'm sorry, you're, oh,
Constantine Themelis, Your Honor.
I think I've heard of him.
Can you spell your last name, sir? Sorry.
Themelis.
Okay, everybody raise your right hands, please.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Okay, you can put your hands down and you can be seated until we call for it. So this was originally filed as a protest under 12-1508. Our staff has determined that it did not meet the threshold for that protest, so we'll proceed on.
We would
in a
like to
normal-
actually-
Let me finish what I'm saying. We'll proceed in a normal request for a transfer. Ms. Coe, what did you want to say?
Yeah, we had filed into the record that, that there was a letter on April 18th threatening the potential for litigation, which we have evidence of, interfering with the process. So we would like to be heard on that, and also the fact that the 200-foot radius that was identified, because of the lot confusion, did not fully encompass the properties that should have been identified when you take the full. What they're claiming is 1704, which currently is actually 1704 and 1706. So the radius actually was not accurate. So on those two counts, we would like to be actually heard on the matter of 12-1508.
I'm going to deny those requests. I mean, if you have some interference claim, you can take that to court. I think we've calculated the, first of all, I want to be clear. This is an application to transfer this license to 1704 Thames Street. The issue of 1706 Thames Street is not before the board today.
Well, currently, it seems to be two separate lots still. So 1704, it was supposed to be consolidated with 1706, but as of today, unless there's new information that just came in today, it remains two separate lots legally.
That's what I'm saying. It is not before us, the 1706 issue. They
But
haven't-
when the
they haven't
boundaries of
applied for it.
1704, but when the boundaries of 1704 are inaccurate on the map that was drawn for the 200-foot radius, specifically for 12-1508, that is directly related.
They would have to come back for 1706.
I'm sorry. I'm being, Ms. Coe, you have to be clearer to me. What are you saying to me?
So on the radius that was provided for the applicants to identify exactly who would be in the denominator that counts as the eligible properties, that did not fully encompass everybody because the 1704 lot was shown, because land records shows it as the original 1704 lot instead of the actual consolidated lot that they would like to see under this application. The east portion, the greater portion of that 1704 lot that they were claiming is 1704 was left out. And so the large radius actually is not far enough to the east. It was not accurate.
And so what is the consequence of that?
I mean, it's just, it was not done properly, and we would just like to state that for the record.
Okay, that's fine. But let's proceed on 1704.
Your Honor, if I may, how many feet are we talking about, Ms. Cobb?
We don't know. It's whatever the width of that 1706 property line is.
Correct, so you would go to the center of one edge of the property to the other? So we're talking about an impact of possibly 20 feet?
Yeah, but the process is to identify exactly who would count in that 200-foot radius, and that was not done properly. So we do want to state that for the record.
Yeah, I don't think it was even close, though, on our calculation.
Yeah, but
So-
if you account for the fear that was in the community from the letter being sent out in the very middle of that process. So those two factors combined really do give a reasonable doubt as to whether the process was fair.
Well, I don't have any concern about whether the process was fair on the record that's before me. As I said, if you believe that somebody's rights to proceed properly were impaired somehow by some letter, you can go into court and make that argument. But it's not before me today. I want to know about whether we should transfer this license to 1704. So let's go forward.
Absolutely. Before we proceed forward, I want to preserve on the record that Peter Previs is also here on behalf of the applicant, and we would like to preserve the
I
argument.
see him.
With,
And he's being
I'm
uncharacteristically
going to welcome
quiet.
him to the podium for a moment. He's
Good,
Why are you here, Mr. Previs?
good afternoon, is it, Mr. Chairman?
It is.
Peter Previs, entering my appearance on behalf of the applicants to preserve a particular issue that I've been fighting about since 1994, and that is that current alcoholic beverages and cannabis article, section 12-1508B, is unconstitutional in that it is a denial of due process under the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and Articles 19 and 21, or 24 of the Maryland Constitution. Very brief argument. I have a memorandum that I would like to submit.
You can submit it, but I don't know if this is the right case to raise it because we're finding it inapplicable.
Right, but the only reason I'm jumping in, and I had this memo on behalf of Mr. Klodensky's client and stood back, is that if the issue was raised by Ms. Coe on appeal, and this wouldn't be preserved, so I
Well, you
just
can
want
put
to
it in
get
the
it on
record.
the
That's
record.
fine.
So, in a nutshell, the argument is, there was a trilogy of U.S. Supreme Court cases, the most recent of which was 1928, that indicate that when legislation delegates governmental authority to private individuals, that is a denial of due process. More recently, 1948, a Connecticut liquor law identical to our 51% rule indicates that that's a denial of due process to have a vote, and you don't know why they're voting. Is it because they have an honest disagreement with the license, or is there some discrimination? When you delegate that authority, that you as a board wouldn't operate under that authority, that's a denial of due process. The distinction is made is that where there's an outright prohibition, like can't have a license within 300 feet of a church or school, but you provide a proviso that the affected church or school could waive that, that would be okay. But where you have a law that says that it's allowed, the conduct is allowed, subject to the board's consideration of what it needs to consider, but you give private individuals the ability to protest and block that based on no standard, then that denies due process. With that said, may I submit this for
Yes,
the
it'll
record?
be received. Thank you.
And
Let's give this to Ms. Russell.
copies for the board. And I gave you one, right?
Okay, Ms. Nardangeli, let's
I would like to
proceed.
note that we did not have any notice of Mr. Previs showing up today, so just noting that for the record.
That's fine. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a request for a transfer of an existing license. The license already exists. I have submitted a copious amount of documents to the board thus far. I have sent a couple documents since the cutoff date for the electronic submission of documents. So I'd like to submit to the board right now as another final exhibit, copies of the correspondence that I sent over to the executive secretary and assistant executive secretary today. I have a copy for each of the board members
That's fine.
with exhibits.
This is already in the record, Ms. Russell?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So to begin, all of the documents that I have submitted, I'd like to proffer, first off, that with regard to the location of the license that we want to transfer, there are many examples with regard to liquor license that have been issued by the liquor board where there is a location that constitutes more than one lot. It doesn't mean that the applicant has used multiple addresses that apply to that location. For example, I've been before the board in the past several years with regard to James Joyce. James Joyce has several addresses that apply to James Joyce. We didn't submit the James Joyce application for all of those addresses. We chose the one that we were going to use for that address, and that's what we asked, we showed the floor
So where are
plan.
you going with this? So you filed an application to transfer this license to 1704 Thames Street. Where are you going with this?
Where I'm going with this is that we have been open and notorious about the desire to consolidate the two lots, the one that constitutes the courtyard and 1704, which is where 1704 is.
Which I guess
lot
you can
13.
do with the zoning board, right?
Absolutely. The problem is that it's been held up for reasons outside of our control. And so what I would like to proffer to the board is that we are asking for the approval of this transfer to the location that we have described, not just one of the lots, but both of the lots.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, I don't think, because until you get your consolidation, I don't think that issue is properly before the board. I understand what you're saying about the addresses, but this is different in my view.
Okay,
I'm happy to go forward on the 1704, though.
great. So,
Okay.
again, I'd like to proffer there is a public need and desire for the license. There is no potential adverse effect on the community, and the impact of the license will be positive. So we'd like to proceed forward with the hearing to transfer the license to 1704.
Yeah, that's fine. So this is an odd situation because it's a BD7 license that you're transferring. It's going to have to function as a restaurant.
That's
right?
correct. There will be
Okay.
food in the restaurant.
So, meaning that, seating capacities and food sales and that sort of thing, right? You
Correct.
understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead if you want to profit.
All right, I have, my first witness I'd like to call is Mr. Darren Smith, who is also the individual named on the application.
That's fine. He was sworn, I believe. You were sworn, right, sir?
He was sworn in.
So if you'll speak into the microphone, go ahead and question him, Ms. Nardini.
I'm sorry, I know he was sworn, but can I get name and spelling?
Sure. It's Darren Mislin, D-A-R-I-N-M-I-S-L-A-N.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mislin, I wanted to ask you about the proposed MOU that the applicant has provided to the Fells Point Residents Association and when that was first presented. Understood.
So I presented the MOU to the Fells Point Residents Association on April 3rd.
Of this year.
Correct. I believe I also sent a copy to Executive Secretary Wurzberger as well as the full board of the FBRA.
Do we have an executed MOU?
The MOU has not been executed because the Fells Point Residents Association has not accepted the terms. Mr. Mislin, do you know of any other MOUs out there that are as restrictive in the Fells Point community?
No, so I don't want to expound too much. The MOU that was drafted and proposed to the Fells Point Residents Association was based on a conversation that I had with the community members directly affected, specifically Evan Hansel. We had a conversation, and then I talked to our lawyers, which drafted the MOU point by point to the concerns that the direct neighbors had, or a representative of the direct neighbors. And then I presented that MOU a couple days later to the FPRA.
Okay.
All right.
With a lot of restrictions on the license that we drafted ourselves.
In brief, can you just give the board a summary of what our final proposition for the restrictions that we were?
Well, is this because there are going to be contestants over these issues? Is that why we're going down? Because MOUs are not generally one of the issues for the transfer of a license.
Well, okay, we're showing that the MOU has been submitted by the applicant in an attempt to negotiate with the community. It is also evidence that the request for the license was to the courtyard and the building located on 1704.
So this MOU addresses the consolidated property?
Yes, it
And
does.
so it's really not strictly before us today either, okay.
Your Honor, if,
But we encourage you to enter into that because you're going to be back here on that other issue.
right. Yes, correct.
Okay.
So there, I have two other witnesses who I would like to present, and then the evidence that I have presented already in document format should speak for itself.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Ms. Coe, did you have a question for that witness?
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alex Smith?
Were you sworn, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I have been.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks for hearing this. Just want to say that.
Wait a minute, let's get a question.
Yep, okay.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Would you expound on what benefit to the community that this proposed transfer would have?
Sure. So if you look at Fells Point right now, in the South Broadway block, between 700 and 800, there's 10 vacant businesses, and the number is growing. And so, you know, we're a company that's committed to Baltimore. We have close to $25 million invested just in the Fells Point community, in both real estate and restaurants. And our goal is to continue to improve the neighborhood.
Thank you. Well, I will not get into the courtyard.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to be back in a month for that.
Right.
Did you have any questions for him?
May I ask, are we not talking about the 1706 property?
Right, because it's not in front of us.
But I object that we can talk about these two separately when the full intent and everything involved in the conversations thus far has been as the property with the use of the courtyard. If you see the exhibits, you can see how important the courtyard is to this whole
I
project.
understand that it's an issue, but they didn't apply for that.
They did apply.
Yeah, not in our application.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, do you have another witness?
Yes, I do. I have two more witnesses.
Your name, ma'am?
Okay.
Nicole Varzande.
Were you sworn?
Yes,
Will you spell your name, please?
sure. Nicole, Nicole, Varzande, Varzandeh.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Ms. Horzande, would you please describe to the board your connection with the Fells Point community?
I am a former vice president of the FBRA, a homeowner, as well as someone who owns numerous rental properties in Fells Point.
And when did you stop serving as an executive for the FPRA?
2020.
Thank you. And can you explain the procedure for the FPRA entering into agreements with members of the community who are seeking their support in matters such as this.
Right. How it used to work prior, when I was on the board, is the businesses would come present to the FPRA, and then only voting members had the chance to stay around and speak through the issues. After that happened, the secretary was to send out a poll or a straw poll to the paying members to get a vote on what the membership, paying members, thought of the proposal that was brought out to the meeting.
And were you present for the April 3rd, 2024 FPRA meeting this year?
Yes.
And were you present for the presentation that Mr. Mislin provided with regard to this particular application?
I was.
And was there an opportunity for the community to vote or have any input with regard to whether or not FPRA would consider the terms in the proposed MOU?
No, there wasn't. No straw poll came out to the paying members, and the Zoom meeting that I was on was cut off without any warning during negotiations.
And are you aware of any involvement of any members of the FPRA in engaging legal counsel to represent the FPRA with regard to this matter?
No, that was never put out to the paying members for approval.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have some questions. Sure. Are you aware that, do you recall that there were only a very few minutes left in the meeting, and there was reference to a straw poll, but that was not actually promised?
The straw poll was promised.
To your knowledge, do you have other instances where MOUs were open to every single person casting a vote?
Yes, it was always
Can
given
you please name
information.
specific instances?
Can I stop for a second? What's the relevance of any of this?
The relevance is, again, that the applicant has made significant measures to, I'm entering on the record that the applicant has made significant measures to negotiate an MOU with the community and to make concessions to the community to assuage certain issues that community members have expressed or concerns.
Okay, but it didn't happen, and we're here on this application, so,
All right, I'm done.
okay,
I've got one more witness, though.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Done. I'd like to call Miss Elizabeth Green.
Okay. Ms. Green, have you been sworn?
Yes.
And spell your name, please.
Elizabeth, Elizabeth, and Green, Green.
Thank you, go ahead.
Ms. Green, can you explain your connection with the Fells Point community?
Yes, I live in Fells Point. I live on Team Street.
What is your address?
1806 Team Street.
And are you an owner or a renter?
I'm a renter.
And what made you decide to become a renter in the community?
I love the Fells Point neighborhood specifically for the lively atmosphere and the restaurants, the bars, the live music. That's something that Fells Point is known for as far as I'm aware and living there. So I have absolutely loved having a more lively atmosphere while living there.
And are you familiar with the application for the transfer of this license to the location?
Yes.
And do you feel that this would be something that would enhance the community and that you would benefit from?
Yes, absolutely. The courtyard is beautiful, and as a resident on Team Street, I know a concern has been noise. I typically do not hear loud noises from inside of my apartment, and when you're outside, you are always hearing music, you're always hearing loud noise, but inside a residence, it is quite quiet, or perhaps it's something that I've gotten used to, but I definitely think that it would improve the community, especially to have something there, and especially like an outside location for members of the Fells Point community to enjoy.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
Ms. Coe, do you have questions for her?
I don't.
Okay. All right, so can you tell us about this operation? Because as we said earlier, it's got to operate as a restaurant. Who's going to manage it? And
Absolutely. I'd like to call Mr. Smith back up to the podium.
I would actually like to correct that there can't be a restaurant because there's not a space for a kitchen inside 1704.
I said it has to operate as a restaurant. It can't operate as a packaged goods store.
Understood.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
My experience in the restaurant business, we have 20 restaurants in Baltimore City. We have 1,500 employees that work for us in the community here. And, you know, we've got a very successful business built around the local clientele of the city. And despite all of our businesses and the outdoor seating we have, and the fact that we operate 8 outdoor bars till 2 o'clock in the morning, we've never had a noise violation. So
So
we're
tell me
very proud
about
of
the
that.
live entertainment at 1704.
Yeah, we're planning on, you know, having some music inside there. You know, and that's pretty much it. It's a 25-seat place. It's a very boutique style place, upscale.
When you say some music, you're talking about live music?
We haven't decided yet, for the interior, that is. Right now, the idea is not to program it with live music because it's such a small space.
Your
But-
elder clients will appreciate that.
Yeah, we hear that, we hear that sometimes from our other properties. But it's a boutique place, and once again, that's a building that has been vacant for a number of years. That's on Thames Street, which is a prime street out in front of the Pendry, and so we invested some capital into revitalizing that dilapidated building.
And what about the outdoor table service? Where will that be?
The outdoor table service would be in the expanded courtyard when the lots are consolidated.
Yeah, so that's not before us
Which is
today?
not before you today. We'll be
Okay.
back for a hearing in a month.
So you're not asking for that with respect to 1704?
But we are when the lots are consolidated, but
Okay. Well, you have to add it to that application to make that clear, but okay.
well, the lots, if the lots were already consolidated today, hypothetically,
And I would like to add that it's very difficult for us to speak theoretically when we know the future usage will be the combined use. So when we're talking theoretically about 1704 and how it's going to be used, I mean, it's just a very difficult thing for us all to address properly.
I'm sure you're up to it. So let's,
So the outdoor table service, so that's on here, was only for
The outdoor
courtyard,
table-
not for in front?
the outdoor table service was not in front. In fact, on our design, whatever we submitted the design for the courtyard next door for our outdoor table service for 1704.
I don't see.
okay, do you know what your seating capacity is going to be at 1704?
I think it's 35.
Okay. And it's going to be 51% food?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything further?
This is already provided in the materials submitted to the board, but for the record.
I'm sorry, I would like to ask a question before we leave.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you please speak to the type of food that you will plan to serve?
We haven't decided on a menu yet.
Is
but
it
it's a-
possible to have a kitchen in that space?
It's a Key West Hemingway style experience. Is it possible to have a kitchen in this space? Yes, it's possible to have a kitchen in this space.
At this time, are you anticipating there is a kitchen?
We're not sure yet.
Does your floor plan include a kitchen?
It does not.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Angeli.
We would like to, we would like to, actually, I'm sorry. He had stated that there were no citations or violations on noise. Can I please ask you about that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You had stated
We're just
that,
asking a question, okay?
you had stated that there were no citations or noise violations.
No,
in
I
your
stated that there's no noise violations.
Okay, no noise violations in 1710?
Are you talking about the Waterfront Hotel, which is a separate business?
You had mentioned your
Yeah.
mode of operating and how you were known in
Correct.
the
To date, we
area
have
as
not
an
rec-
operator.
We have not received any noise violations.
Well, were there 311 calls
Yes.
specifically for noise?
Yes, we look at that as harassment, actually.
And on May 17th, are you aware that there was a loud music citation issued for 1710?
I'm not aware of that, no.
And are you aware of the usage of the side lot next to 1710 being cited by this liquor board on March 16th?
I am aware of that, but that was not for noise. That's because we assumed that we still were under the parklet rules because we did operate in the courtyard.
That issue is coming
For over
before
a
us
year.
shortly, but it's not before us today. I think it's on our docket for June 27th.
I would like to read something to the board. It's an email from an Inspector Todd Warren,
Well, I have a
which we provided a
copy.
copy of, but I'm just going to read through it. As you guys know, we've been the subject to harassment from many people in the community, especially people that are politically connected.
Thank you.
And they actually sent an inspector down from housing with a decibel reader. And this is Todd Ward, and he's the Environmental Inspector Services for the Baltimore City Health Department. Mr. Mislin, my business partner, thank you again for working with me for my noise complaint investigation on Friday evening, 4/19/2024. This email serves as evidence that your facility, the Waterfront Hotel, 1710, was not in violation of Baltimore City Health Code.
What does this have to do with this case?
Well, she brought up 1710, and she brought up the noise violation.
Are you implying that the city official is being bribed or something? Like, what,
No,
why are you?
what I'm
Whoa,
implying.
whoa. I'm not going down that road. I'm here on 1704's transfer. I'm not interested in 1710 today. We
Understood.
have that issue coming before.
I believe that Mr. Smith was speaking to the credibility of
What-
the applicant as a restaurant operator because
Correct.
that credibility was questioned.
What I'm saying is, we've been
Yeah, I heard you say
in
that. I
Fells
don't know
Point-
anything about any of
Okay.
that. Go ahead.
And we were submitting that into evidence to show that that particular incident, it was found that it was not.
It was
a
two
noise
other bars on Thames Street.
So, yeah.
You'll get your chance when you're
Speaking to
cited.
the Speaking to the credibility of the applicant as an operator, that's all.
Okay. Did you have anything further to present?
I do not.
Okay. Do you have something to present, Ms. Coe?
Yes, I do. I would like to speak to the concerns about the amount of support or opposition. So we did turn in the signatures. We have 55 unique signatures, and it was submitted to the board, but these are unique names that are in opposition.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Others, I
Is
don't
this
know. if-
already in our record?
It was submitted just this morning.
Oh, okay.
And it is actually a summary of the actual petition of May signatures that were collected, which is certainly in the record.
And does this go to this consolidated issue?
Well, it goes to 1704 because these are, again, it's very difficult to parse out exactly how many people would be okay with 1704 if it was just this one building without the use of the courtyard that's next to it, which is what they're planning. So it's very difficult for us to speak on something that's not actually going to happen in the future.
Okay, so,
But this does show 55 unique people in the community, and 51 of them are certainly members within the boundaries that we talked about for the community. And 17 of those were, those who signed the affidavit who were not also signing this petition. So this is 55 unique signatures that were submitted in opposition among the residents.
okay.
Your Honor, I'd like to object to the submission of the petitions based on counsel's explanation that the individuals who signed the opposition petition were not aware that.
I think we can take it for the
request-
weight that we think it's entitled to. I just want to be clear, so this issue of this property that is between the Waterfront Hotel and 1704, we have not authorized anyone to use that for outdoor service. We have violated the Waterfront Hotel for doing that, and that's going to be heard at another date. We are not, if we approve this today, authorizing 1704 to use it, because that has to be heard at another date. So that's our position at this point.
Understood.
And based on the testimony I've heard today, there's not going to be any outdoor table service related to 1704 at this point.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Now you may proceed if you have anything else.
I do not have anything else.
Do you, Ms. Coe?
I don't believe I do.
Okay. Okay. Commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
All right. On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the testimony received, the proffers from counsel, arguments heard, and motions submitted, I vote to approve the application to transfer ownership and location from a secured creditor of this Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license presently located at 2501 to 03 Fleet Street to 1704 Thames Street with live entertainment.
Before we end, I would like to request that this approval be conditioned on an MOU being signed for this property.
Well, let me hear from the other commissioners
Yes.
first. We'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on materials and testimony provided today, I also vote to approve the application to transfer ownership and location from a secured creditor to a Class BD7 PWL license presently located at 2501 through 03 Fleet Street to 1704 Thames Street, and also requesting live entertainment and outdoor table service.
Mr. Chair, there was one other person who wanted to testify that was not yet called. I know we're in the end of
Call
it.
them, and so this case is over. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, based on the application materials, the exhibits that were admitted today and beforehand, the testimony that was given, the proffers made by statement and arguments made by counsel, and the motions that were made today, also vote to approve this application to transfer ownership and location from a secured creditor of a Class BD7 BWL license presently located at 2501-03 Fleet Street to 1704 Thames Street, with the live entertainment and outdoor table service, but not to the adjacent property that's not combined now.
Ms. Russell?
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. 50% protest hearing exhibit, number 1, 50% protest hearing timeline. 2, 50% protest hearing process timeline. 3, map and list of property owners. 4, 12 affidavits. 5, memorandum regarding argument against 51% rule. Transfer hearing exhibit, licensee number 1, email from Anastasia Thomas dated 4/2/24. 2, licensee support packet, exhibits A through E. 3, withdrawal support dated 5/21/24. 4, email from Baltimore City Health Department. Opposition, exhibit number 1, letter of preservation of evidence dated 4/18/24. 2, letter of response to preservation of evidence dated 5/1/24. 3, letter from Fells Point Resident Associated dated 5/19/24. 4, petition of opposition. 5, 9 letters of opposition. 6, community law center packet of opposition. And 7, letter from Representative of Maryland 46th District dated 5/21/24. And 8, summary of opposition.
So let me come back to your question, Ms. Coe. With respect to what we've just approved for 1704, I didn't hear any testimony about specific issues on 1704 that would necessarily require that we impose an MOU requirement. I do believe what's going to be coming back to us is hot for that. The members of our legislature have submitted a letter to us from that district saying that they very much favor the idea of a negotiated memorandum of understanding between the association and the applicants with respect to any use of the 1706 property. I think I can speak for my colleagues here. We very much favor that as well. Apparently, there was one submission made by the applicants, and I don't know that there's been a response to it yet from the other side, but you are welcome to engage Mr. Ockheimer's services from our organization to work with you all to try to work out some kind of a memorandum of understanding. He's in the back, I'm sorry, I pointed over there. I think it would be beneficial to everybody to address the issues that are of concern to the community with respect to that area and to address the needs of the applicants with respect to that area and to be fair to everybody before it comes back here. And it would be a delight to us to have you come back in agreement rather than in opposition. So I hope that you will take that into account and try to do that. And Mr. Ockheimer will help you set up those meetings and facilitate them if you need.
I would just like to express concern that there might be matters extinguished by settling today that would not be worked out properly the next time. So I just wanted to state that concern for the record.
I'm sorry, would you tell me what you mean?
Well, with the license being approved just for 1704 without a condition to work out the MOU, it's unprecedented where part of a lot that's, been described in the application is approved, and then later we come back for the whole thing. So I just wanted to express that concern that, things would be heard properly next time when the lot is consolidated.
I just admonish you not to get hung up on that, to work out an agreement based on what's coming next, and to do it to the benefit of your clients. Commissioners have anything else?
No. Nothing further.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you. Next.
There being no further business before this board, the board is in recess until Thursday, June 13th, 2024 at 10:30. We are adjourned.
John.
Thank you, everybody.